Good morning. The first item of business is general questions, and at question number 1 I call John Mason.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with the UK Government regarding the proposed establishment of Great British Railways and any potential implications for devolved responsibilities over rail services and infrastructure in Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
I and this Government are clear that full devolution of rail is in Scotland's best interest, not least to deliver the services our communities and economy need and deserve. I am proud that ScotRail in public ownership has been a success, and ScotRail train performance and passenger satisfaction are consistently higher than the GB average. I welcome the intent of the UK Government's rail reform bill. I've discussed it twice with the Secretary of State for Transport, and the commitment to protect current devolution of powers and indeed learn from the example of Scotland's integrated approach to track and train. I want to continue to work constructively with the UK Transport Secretary to protect and enhance Scotland's interests, but I am concerned at the lack of clarity and detail in the proposals to date.
John Mason.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that reply, but her final point about the lack of clarity does concern me as well, because this idea has been around for a very long time. And can she assure us that the Scottish Government, will resist any attempts to take decisions around, say, ticket prices or rail investment back to London?
Cabinet Secretary.
So I've repeatedly sought assurance from the Secretary of State that any decisions made by the UK Government will not dilute Scottish Ministers' existing powers. Scottish Ministers will do all within our power to protect the interests of Scottish Railways, to allow us to continue to build on the success of bringing ScotRail and Caledonian Sleeper into public ownership for the benefit of the people of Scotland. But unless and until we see text in the bill which secures accountability for integrated rail services to this Parliament and this Government, that risk still exists.
Question number 2, Jamie Halker-Johnston.
To ask the Scottish Government what new measures it has introduced in relation to supporting improved community engagement and respecting local democratic decision-making when Section 37 applications for energy infrastructure are considered.
Cabinet Secretary Gillian Martin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On the 7th of May, the Scottish Government published new guidance on how to deliver consistent and meaningful pre-application consultation for transmission projects requiring an environmental impact assessment. This guidance creates more transparency around the process, ensuring communities understand when and how they can best input at the various stages of development. The Scottish Government has also been working with the UK Government on its planning and infrastructure bill, which includes provisions to make pre-application consultation statutory for the first time. This will guarantee communities the opportunity to have their say earlier in the process.
Jamie Halker-Johnston.
Last week, the Energy Consents Unit approved the Skye Reinforcement Project, overruling the decision of Highland Council and proving without doubt that it's not elected local representatives but unelected officials in Edinburgh who have the final say over large energy infrastructure projects. Last Saturday, community councillors from across the Highlands met in Beaulieu for a convention chaired by local councillor Helen Crawford. In their agreed unified statement, they confirmed their opposition to what they rightly called the unjust and unnecessary industrialisation of the Highlands. They declared that community consultation was inadequate, that local democracy was being overridden, and that local decisions were being disregarded by the Scottish Government. So can I ask the Cabinet Secretary for her response to that unified statement? And with further meetings planned, can I ask her whether she will agree to meet with the Convention members and elected local officials to hear first-hand from the people impacted by intrusive energy infrastructure her government is forcing on their communities?
Cabinet Secretary.
The previous Conservative government at UK level showed no interest in making either community engagement or community benefits associated with developments or transmissions mandatory, despite the Scottish Government asking for this to be addressed urgently. The legislation and regulations that we have to abide by in law in Scotland in considering applications are set by the UK Government. And frankly, Presiding Officer, the Scottish Conservatives know this, but are determined to create a narrative that everything surrounding this is within the hands of Scottish governments. Mr Halker-Johnston, I would say to Mr Halker-Johnston that I wish it was the case that we had every lever available at our disposal with regard to these matters, because in an independent Scotland, we change the regulations to ensure strict...
Let's hear the Cabinet Secretary.
In an independent Scotland, we would change regulations to ensure strict community engagement conditions.
question number 3, Colette Stevenson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on its work to tackle and prevent youth violence, including any outcomes from the summit held on the 12th of June.
Cabinet Secretary Angela Constance.
Presiding Officer, informed by the meeting held on the 12th of June and what we already know is working, we are considering what more we can do to strengthen support for young people and communities. And we've also announced an additional £6 million for the next phase of the Cashback for Communities programme, providing a total of up to £26 million over the next 3 years to support safe spaces, trusted adults and a range of positive diversionary and support activities for young people. Separately, we will publish a progress report on the implementation of the Violence Prevention Framework for Scotland later this year, which will highlight action we have taken with our partners over 2024-25.
Colette Stevenson.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that information. She will appreciate my constituency interest in this summit, given recent events affecting East Kilbride. Much progress has been made in tackling crime in Scotland under this government. However, the behaviour of a small minority of young people seems to be changing for the worse. Constituents have told me about signs of worrying behaviour being overlooked. Can the Cabinet Secretary set out how the Scottish Government is working with partners to ensure the education system, police, social work, youth workers and other relevant stakeholders can link up to get in early and prevent any signs of violent or antisocial behaviour from escalating? And could she also see what action is being taken to make young people safer, as well as the support available to parents and carers who are extremely worried?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, I do of course appreciate Ms Stevenson's constituency interest, and my thoughts remain with the loved ones of Caden Moy. His tragic death highlights the very real risks involved in violent behaviour and the need to prevent it happening in the first place. I do want to reassure the member that partnership working is central to our response to children and young people, and that has been since 2011, since we delivered the multi-agency whole system response to preventing offending by children and young people, and that of course brings together social work, police, health, education and other key partners. We've also published new guidance this week for schools on the consequences on risk assessments for violent, aggressive and dangerous behaviour, and this guidance emphasises the need for early intervention and prevention and the importance of schools and families working together to promote positive relationships and behaviour.
Aaron Dowie.
This is the third summit on youth violence in 2 years. The first was to stop violence in our schools. That didn't work. The second was to stop youth violence amongst young people. That didn't work. Having attended the third summit, I don't have much confidence in a better outcome. So will the Government finally act, invest in youth services, increase stop and search powers to tackle youth knife crime, which the Scottish Police Federation have asked for, drop the two-tier sentencing policies for under-25s and make sure that actions have consequences?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, I was very pleased that opposition spokespeople attended the Youth Summit that was held last week. It is important that as a government that we openly engage with youth work leaders and hear directly from those working in the front line in preventative work. And it's also important that we do that on a cross-party basis to hear about the changing challenges for our young people and how that is influencing the behaviour of some young people. So I make no apologies for engaging with those on the front line. And it is important that we continue to listen to those who are working on the front line with our young people so that we implement what works. What I don't hear from Ms Dowie, which is very unfortunate, bearing in mind she kindly did attend the summit, is I hear no solutions. I only hear a harking back to the past. And it is very clear that the evidence tells us that we have to work together, bearing in mind young people are the responsibility of us all. We need to be promoting safe spaces, developing further the whole family approach and utilising peer mentor and role model interventions that we know that work. And of course, where necessary, police do indeed have to respond, and they have the powers to do so.
Thank you. Brief supplementary, Paul O'Kane.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And in common with colleagues who are raising these issues, this is something that I've seen in my own region, and in particular in Barrhead. As the Cabinet Secretary knows, we've had a recent incident of damage and vandalism to the United Services Club in Barrhead, which is the last social club run by many older volunteers, and it was very distressing for them. So I have heard what the Minister has said. The Government has now had a number of summits, but I think what we need to know is when is the funding coming that will support local authorities, community organisations and, crucially, the police in order to take a focused and holistic view of this and to get the solutions that we need for communities?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, I very much appreciate Mr O'Kane raising his constituency concerns directly in this chamber, but if I can point to the fact that we have invested in the cashback scheme, which is very focused on diversionary activities. We have invested in the violence prevention framework. We are investing in our police force. I don't remember anybody else in this chamber other than me arguing for an increase in funding for Police Scotland, and funding for Police Scotland and police in this country has increased by £90 million, and the budget, which not everybody in this chamber voted for, increased resources to local authorities of £1 billion over the length and breadth of Scotland. But I remain committed to working with colleagues based on the evidence what works to both prevent as well as respond to youth violence.
Thank you. Concise questions and responses appreciated. Question number 4, Ben McPherson.
To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on how it is assessing the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service's capacity to provide emergency response cover and ensure community safety in Edinburgh, including in relation to meeting any needs resulting from population growth in the Lothians.
Minister Siobhan Brown.
Presiding Officer, the capacity of the Scottish Fire Rescue Service to provide emergency cover in any particular area is an operational matter for the Fire Service. But in saying that, the emergencies that Scottish Fire Rescue Service respond to have changed significantly over the years, and it is right that it carefully considers how to adapt to the changing risks to remain effective and efficient, with firefighters in the right place at the right time. SFRS carries out detailed risk assessments based on a community risk index model, which takes into account a wide range of factors, including future population, growth, industry and other hazards as well.
McPherson.
As the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service considers all of that, it is clear and obvious that the population in Edinburgh, and particularly in the north and east of Edinburgh, is growing. Last year, when there was a fire at Breadalbin Street in my constituency, Marionville Station fire engines were some of the first on the scene, probably saving lives. A few weeks ago, when Cableswynd House in my constituency unfortunately caught fire, fire engines from Marionville Fire Station were some of the first on the scene again, probably saving lives. And just last week, in a neighbouring constituency, Hawkhill Close unfortunately caught fire, and Marionville Fire Engine from that station, undoubtedly, in the view of many, saved lives. Does all of this not make the case that keeping a fire station at Marionville, despite the RAC issues that need to be dealt with, or very close by, is essential and compelling?
Minister.
Thank you. The Scottish Fire Rescue Service is currently undertaking a strategic service review, and there will be a full public consultation published next week, and I would urge anyone with any interest in it to please engage with that. I have been kept updated on the SFRS plans for the consultation and have received assurances that supporting evidence will be published alongside the consultation, and would like to emphasise this is about providing an optimal service to maintain community safety to inform final decisions. Robust evidence and data will be needed to be at the heart of the decision concerning any possible changes following the review. And I would reiterate to the member that I am always happy to meet with the member, and I am having a drop-in session next week if he would like to attend that.
Thank you. Question number 5, Claire Baker.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what assessment it has made of any impact of the recent changes to college funding arrangements on Fife College.
Minister Graham Day.
Colleges play an important role in our communities, which is why the budget for this year sees a 2.1% uplift to the college resource allocation. It's also a fact that the Scottish Funding Council has ensured that no college will see a reduction in teaching funding during the financial year compared with the previous one. Fife College will receive a 1.26% increase in teaching funding and a 4.9% increase in capital maintenance in the final allocations. And of course, next year, the college will be moving into new facilities in the Dunfermline Learning Campus, which has been supported by tens of millions of pounds of Scottish Government investment. Operational decisions, including those regarding course provision and staffing, are of course a matter for individual colleges.
Claire Baker.
I thank the Minister for that response, but he is well aware that the 1.2% increase in teaching funding is a real terms cut. It is below inflation and it compares unfavourably with other colleges. Over the past decade, Fife College's core budget has seen a real terms cut of almost 20%. It now faces defunding of £1.3 million in annual learning and teaching investment for the coming year. There is no question that it is one of the losers in this change to funding, and this will have consequences for staffing, for academic provision and for accessibility. The college principal, Jim Metcalfe, has said the scale of this challenge now created by these changes is clearly precipitous. Does the Minister recognise that this decision risks bringing Fife College to the situation these changes are seeking to solve for other colleges and places the college at risk?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, the underlying assertion that other colleges are somehow being favoured over Fife simply does not stand up to scrutiny. Not when you visit Dunfermline and you see the brand new £150 million Scottish Government-funded campus which the college will take ownership of later this year. Now, if Claire Baker is arguing that the SFC should take financial resource away from other colleges to give to Fife, then perhaps she can provide a list of the institutions she has in mind. I'm sure that it would interest some of her Labour colleagues who are in other parts of the country. And if she's arguing that there should simply be more money provided the sector, then I have to remind her that Labour made no such ask of the government when it came to the budget setting process. While Willie Rennie and the Lib Dems worked with the Scottish Government to secure an additional £3.5 million for colleges, Labour sat on their hands. They therefore have not a shred of credibility on this issue.
The briefest of supplementaries, Annabel Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Minister is aware that I wrote to him on the 11th of June expressing my concerns about the implications for Fife College as regards the new funding model. I understand that the Minister, in exchange with Alex Rowley on the 8th of May, indicated that he was open to exploring whether a further premium could be added into the mix, recognising the delivery of courses linked to national and to local need. What is the status of that thinking, Minister?
Minister.
Can I say to Annabel Ewing, I've not seen that letter that she's written to me, but she's obviously raised it today. The situation with an additional premium sits within a wide-ranging piece of work, which is looking at how we get the colleges in their localities to better align their offering with the needs of the local and national economy. So that is an ongoing piece of work, but I will respond in due course to Annabel Ewing's letter.
Question number 6, Liam Kerr.
To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on when the consultation results of the A96 corridor review will be published.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
During the roundtable meeting I held in Parliament on the 4th of February, which the member attended, I indicated that it was my intention to provide an update on the public's response to the consultation as soon as it was provided to me once the responses had been collated and analysed and a report summarising the feedback has been produced. The 12-week consultation period ended on the 21st of February with over 1,400 responses received. I thank the member for the question, which allows me to announce that I have received the consultation report at the end of last week, briefed Cabinet colleagues on its publication at the beginning of this week, and I can now advise Parliament that the consultation report will be published on Transport Scotland's website this afternoon, and I will share the link with all the relevant North East and Highland constituency and regional MSPs.
Liam Kerr.
I'm very grateful, but almost 5,000 days, 16 Transport Ministers and 14 years since this government promised to dual the A96 between Aberdeen and Inverness, we finally get a publication date for a consultation. So, Cabinet Secretary, when the consultation results are released this afternoon, will that come with a cast-iron commitment that the A96 will finally be dualled?
Cabinet Secretary.
So as I indicated in the roundtable that I referred to, it was my intention at the request of MSPs to ensure the consultation report was published as soon as possible. But in relation to our ongoing commitment to dual the A96, any decision will have to be made in the context of available planned budgets and obviously the impacts of this week's UK Government spending review and the Scottish Government's investment and infrastructure plan refresh anticipated for later in the year. Presiding Officer, I didn't want to delay the consultation report being published because that's what MSPs had asked me to do, and I have done what I said I would do back in February.
Thank you. We must conclude general questions at that point. My apologies to those members we have been unable to reach. And before we move to First Minister's question time, I invite members to join me in welcoming to the gallery the Honourable Raj Johan, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia.